everyone, I'm Wendy. Welcome back to Show Me Mo Vegan. Today I have a really healthy and delicious dessert for you. The best way I can think to describe this is like a cherry cheesecake. But of course it's vegan, so there's no dairy involved. For the filling, we'll be using tofu. But before we get there, let's start working on the crust. For the crust, I'm starting with roasted chestnuts. You might be able to find these in some grocery stores, but I just get them online. This package is 5.29 ounces, so I'll dump that whole thing right into the food processor. I like using the chestnuts because they're really low fat. You could use any other kind of nut that you would like in your crust, like almonds or cashews, maybe pecans or walnuts. I do regularly eat nuts and seeds, but for a dessert like this, I like to lower the fat content if I can, so that I can eat as much as I like. To this, I'm also going to be adding dates. I'm using medjool dates, which are rather large. You would want to use about 5 or 6. If you're using a smaller kind of date, like deglet dates, you might want to use 9 or 10. And even though we're using the food processor, I like to chop the dates up just a little bit to give it a little help. So I slice the date in half to remove the pit and then just cut it into a couple more pieces. And then add them into the food processor. Next, I'll add a heaping half a cup of oats. These are just regular old-fashioned rolled oats. If you want this dessert to be gluten-free, make sure you find certified gluten-free oats. When I said heaping, I didn't mean to spill it all over the counter, but you know, whatever. And now for some flavor, I'm adding about half a teaspoon of cinnamon. And the last ingredient for our crust is optional, but I think it tastes really great with the cherries. We're going to make this a chocolate crust. You can use regular cocoa powder or cacao powder, but I'm actually using carob powder, which is not chocolate, but it has a chocolatey flavor. I'm sensitive to chocolate, so I always use carob powder instead. And then we'll pulse it a few times and then let it run for about 30 seconds or so, just until everything starts to break up. When you squeeze it between your fingers, it should hold together pretty well. And then we'll just dump this right into a regular pie pan. It looks like a lot, but we'll press this down into the bottom nice and evenly. It's your choice whether you want to press this completely evenly all the way around, or if you'd like, you can make it go up on the edges just a little bit. I pretty much make it even all the way around, with just a little bit of a lip at the edge. It doesn't have to be perfect, it's gonna taste good whatever it looks like. I have the oven set to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and I'll put the crust in just to give it a head start for about 5 minutes while we work on the filling. And don't worry about cleaning your food processor just yet. We're going to throw everything for the filling right into the same food processor. Like I said at the beginning, the base of our filling is tofu. This is silken tofu, which you can get either in the refrigerated section or you can get it in these shelf-stable boxes. I like the shelf-stable tofu because I don't use it that often. If I got the refrigerated kind, it usually goes bad before I use it. I usually like to get the one in the red box, but any of them will work. This orange box is called extra firm silken tofu. The red box is soft silken tofu. The reason I prefer the red box is because it doesn't have the soy protein isolate. I personally try to avoid protein isolates most of the time, but they didn't have that one at the store today, so it's no biggie, either one will work. If you'd like to take the extra work, you can press this tofu very gently. You want to take it out of the box, wrap it in a clean tea towel, and just let it sit for a while to soak up some of that extra liquid. Without pressing it, your crust might absorb some of that liquid, but it still tastes delicious, so I don't take that extra step. It works just fine taking it straight out of the box, but you do want to empty it over a bowl or over the sink so that you do drain out any water that's in the box, and don't add all of that into your food processor. Next, I'm using cherries for our cherry cheesecake, but I think other fruits would be delicious too. Strawberries, blueberries, and raspberries would be great. I think it would also be good with something like peaches or any other fruit, really. I personally love cherries though. And the cherries I have are pitted, but I still always like to cut them in half just to make sure there are no pits, because every once in a while you will find a pit. Plus, cutting them in half helps the food processor out a little bit. I'm using about 3 cups, so as I cut them, I'm just chopping them into a cup and we'll add that along to the food processor. For flavor, I'm adding vanilla powder, about 2 teaspoons. You can use vanilla extract, but I really love these vanilla bean powders. It's just the whole vanilla bean ground up into a powder. It looks like all I have left here is about 2 teaspoons, so I'm just gonna dump everything in. In my opinion, you can never have too much vanilla flavor. I'm also adding 2 teaspoons of cinnamon and then a little bit of date syrup. You could also use maple syrup or perhaps date sugar if you want a more whole food option. And everyone's tastes are different, so add as much as you'd like. I usually do about 3 or 4 tablespoons. Then we'll blend this up until it's nice and smooth and add it to our pie crust. My food processor has this handy dandy contraption that you can put in so that you can scrape down the sides while it's processing. If you don't have that, you may want to stop and scrape down the sides a couple of times to make sure everything gets pureed evenly. I learned this nifty little trick from Chef AJ. You can either take your time carefully scraping off every little bit from your blade and still not get everything off, or once you get everything out of the container, put your blade back in and spin it just for a second. Everything will come off nice and clean, and you'll get every last bit. This will go back in the oven for about 25 or 30 minutes until the filling is set. You actually don't even need to bake this at all. This filling is perfectly delicious to eat as is. So if you'd like a more cream pie consistency, simply add the filling and serve it right away. You can also freeze it either before or after baking. I've always loved cold cheesecake, so I take it out of the freezer and let it defrost, and I eat it while it's still just a little bit frozen. I ended up letting my cherry cheesecake bake for about 30 minutes, and then I left it out to cool. It's best to refrigerate this and chill it before eating. Mine is still a little bit warm, but I'm going to go ahead and give it a try. I'm not very good at getting these out very nice and pretty, but we'll see how we do. It does come out pretty easily. Not too bad, I just mashed the end of it a little bit, but it'll still taste amazing, I'm sure. So here we go. It smells so amazing. I absolutely love the cherries, and the chocolate smell is fantastic. So let's see how it tastes. I think this dessert is amazing. The filling is so nice and creamy, and the crust with that chocolatey flavor is delicious. Mine is still a little bit warm because I was too impatient to wait to let it chill, but again, I think it's best when it's chilled in the refrigerator. I also love to freeze this. I'll freeze individual slices and then take one out, let it warm up just a little bit, and eat it while it's still a little frozen. That was always my favorite way to eat cheesecake. Let me know in the comments if you give this one a try. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.